Have you ever wondered if you are living your life or performing it? Maybe that is why so many of us are obsessed with becoming the main character. And honestly, I get it. Because who doesn't want to feel like their life actually belongs to them? But what does that actually mean? The idea started with this concept that you should live your life like it's a movie, where you are the main character and everybody else is the supporting cast. And when I first heard of this, I was fascinated by it because I spent a lot of my life trying to fit in. And without even realizing it, I became hyper aware of everything I did. I was consistently editing myself, making sure I wasn't being too weird or too loud, too quiet. And that is exhausting. And that is why the idea of main character energy is so appealing to me. Because I want to stop making decisions based on whether everybody else will like me and start asking a different question. But what do I like? But then I had this realization. If I spent my entire life focused on everybody else, and then suddenly I switched to only focusing on myself, I think that's where main character syndrome gets its bad reputation. And that's not what I'm talking about. I don't think the goal is to become less self-aware, but rather to become the right kind of self-aware. It's understanding how your words and actions affect the people around you without making their opinions the center of your identity. It's knowing how you're perceived, but not letting that perception decide who you become. It's making choices because they align with your values, not because they'll earn the most approval. And that's what healthy main character energy is. It's not shrinking yourself to make everybody else comfortable, but it's also not making yourself the center of every room. And the more I thought about this, the more I started asking myself, why do we care so much about what other people think? And honestly, I think it starts when we're really young. When you're in school, that little world feels like everything. For 12 years, you're surrounded by the same people, and you quickly learn who fits in and who doesn't. You know who the popular kids are, and you know who the weird kids are, and you do not want to be rejected. So you adapt. You start paying attention who gets approval and what makes people like you, and slowly you start changing little pieces of yourself to fit in. And that leads me to another question. At what point did we stop feeling like the main character in our own life? I don't think that happens all at once. It happens when we start choosing what will make us accepted over what will make us happy. When we stop asking, what do I like, and start asking, what will people think? Maybe it starts with rejection or being bullied or feeling different. Maybe it's realizing that certain parts of yourself are easier for people to accept than others. So you start changing. You become easier to understand, easier to like, easier to approve of. And slowly, you go from experiencing your own life to observing yourself just living it. Instead of asking, do I enjoy this? You ask, am I doing this right? Instead of thinking, I want to try this, you think, what will people think? But that's the trap of chasing approval. The more you focus on becoming accepted by everybody else, the further you can drift from yourself. Maybe becoming the main character isn't about becoming somebody new. Maybe it's about learning to return to the person you were before you learned you had to shrink yourself. Maybe the reason so many of us struggle with feeling like the main character isn't just a personal issue. Maybe it's a reflection of the world we live in. Because we don't just experience moments anymore. We think about how those moments will look. A vacation isn't just a vacation anymore. It's content. A meal isn't just a meal. It's something to photograph. A life milestone becomes something to announce. And slowly, it becomes easy to confuse living a meaningful life with creating a life that looks meaningful. But maybe the real main character isn't the person who gets the most attention. Maybe it's the person who's actually present. The person who can enjoy a moment without needing to prove it happened. And that brings me to my final question. So what does it actually mean to be the main character of your own life? If your life was a movie, what would the protagonist actually do? Would they spend every scene worrying about whether strangers approve of them? Would they avoid anything uncomfortable because they were afraid of looking dumb? Probably not. The characters we love aren't interesting because they never struggle. They're interesting because they do. They make mistakes, they embarrass themselves, they take risks, they learn, they change. But in real life, so many of us wait, and I know that I did. For example, I've always wanted to be a YouTuber, but I never actually started my channel. And it wasn't because I didn't know how to start, not because I didn't have ideas, but because I was terrified of what people would think about me. I was afraid people would make fun of me, afraid I would be misunderstood, afraid of putting myself out there just to fail in front of everybody. So I waited for more confidence, for more certainty, for a better time, for a better plan, for a better version of myself. And somewhere along the line, 10 years passed, and finally, I realized that I spent my entire life being self conscious instead of just having the courage of being the real me. Maybe the main characters aren't the ones who have everything figured out. Maybe they're the ones who choose their own direction anyway. They create their own definition of success, their own timeline, their own idea of what a fulfilling life looks like, and they stop measuring their life against everybody else's and start asking a much simpler question: is this a life that feels true to me?